Welcome back to another episode of Chicago Brewed Sports. As always, we're joined by Brandon Nordley sitting to my left, and to my right is Joe Cladd. As for myself, my name is Andrew Nordley. We are a podcast
for the fans, by the fans,
baby. We have a lot to cover tonight, boys. I'm very excited about the podcast, but first, tell me about your week and how are we feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. My week was pretty productive, pretty busy at work. Nothing too crazy. Pretty good week overall. How about you,
I don't know if you guys specified, but this is a special episode because this is on a Tuesday. We usually are on Wednesday.
Very true. So you guys are getting the pod early.
Yeah. So
very true.
Feeling good. I'm actually trying to plan my first Blackhawks game. I want to go in person for this season. I watched the last couple home games. They're a fun team to keep up with. I think they're very promising. So keep it up with the Hawks and having a good week overall.
If you want to, Brandon, me and Alex Pankey, our guest from last week, are going to the Hawks and Capitals game this year. If you want to join us,
I'd love to.
Cool, man. I don't know what was so funny about that, but for myself, I started work last week, so I've been working and as well as working out and stuff like that. So nothing much has changed other than me working. Before we get started today, we're going to jump in and do the shot of Malort immediately. Joe is our big loser tonight. Shout out to the Impractical Jokers. Let's get this ball rolling.
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, man.
Joe, what was your prediction?
I think it was. To be honest, I don't remember. I picked the Bears to win, and they didn't win, so it doesn't matter.
Actually, that's kind of low, man. I gotta give you a little bit more. I'm not. Actually, it's kind of a rim.
That's
my
fine.
bad, bro. I'll do a rim shot next time.
Your worst. We're getting close to polishing this bottle.
And I only took one shot out of this thing, just to let you know. So I'm pretty proud of it.
Here we go. Cheers to Chicago Brewed Sports.
Cheers, Joey.
Yeah, and get her down.
Ooh, looks like you didn't like that one.
Nah, it's all right. I've had worse.
So why don't we jump right into the Bears? There's a lot of important things to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'll start off by saying we lost. It was a close game. We were competitive the first half. I was at work, so I missed actually the first half, but I watched a lot of highlights, and I caught the second half of the game. It's pretty hard to win games when you have 5 turnovers. That's how many times we turned over the balls.
It was
the ball to the Panthers.
That was a rough second half
Not
of
the
the game.
Panthers. Jeez, I can't think. Saints.
Same division.
Yeah. So what really upset me was the fourth quarter. I think that is, just is what ultimately the downfall was. The fourth quarter. What really pissed me off was that the Bears got the ball back 4 times, and the Saints did not score once towards the end of the fourth quarter, and we could not put a single point on the board by getting the ball back 4 times. That was unacceptable. At that point, the Saints were practically giving us the game. I don't know how we every time the kicker, he missed the field goal. They're practically giving us the game, and all we needed was 7 points to tie it up to go into overtime, and we could not execute at all.
Joe, you know what? What you just said is very true, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way, because, they were giving us the game, and we didn't capitalize on it, but we also completely gave them the game. Look at penalties. I remember talking to Andrew about this when we were watching the game. The Bears had 8 penalties, resulting in 71 total yards, compared to the Saints having only 1 penalty and 5 yards. When you consider how close this game was overall, think about it, right? We lost to the Saints 24-17. We had so many more penalties than they did. So we gave them the game in that aspect, and we had about 4 or 5 or whatever amount turnovers it was.
5 turnovers.
Think about it. If we minimize, even if we led in penalties and turnovers, well, let's say we cut both in half, right? Let's say we have 4 penalties instead of 8. Let's say we had 2 turnovers instead of 4. We're still winning this game. Yeah. But we completely gave that game away, to your point.
Brandon, it's very simple. Bad teams find ways to beat themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
I
a
agree.
good team there would have won that game 9 out of 10 times, probably 10 out of 10. But
10 out of 10 times, I agree.
But bad teams just figure out ways for themselves to.
So
lose,
to get the exact number, I think you said it. The Bears had 8 penalties. The Saints had 1
Right.
penalty. The Bears had 5 turnovers. The Saints had 0
Unreal.
turnovers. So yeah, you're not going to win many football games playing like that. You know, when Taysom Hill came out there, it seemed like the Bears defense had no clue on what to do. I thought they played pretty solid overall, but I mean, he's a tight end / quarterback, which is unique. But yeah, I mean, he threw that one touchdown pass, and it's just like they had no clue on where this guy was going. Is he running with the ball? Is he throwing the ball? What's he doing?
Yeah, he's kind of a cheat code.
Yeah.
I remember the last
Yeah.
couple years in fantasy football, he's the only guy that he's a quarterback and you can put him in the tight end slot, which I still doesn't make any sense to me. But you know, you have him in the tight end slot, he's running in for touchdowns all the time as a quarterback. So
For sure.
I don't know, something I wanted to note, something that bothered me the last couple of years with Taysom Hill. I have some resentment towards that guy.
You know, and the Saints, I mean, people would consider that an elite defense. So I thought their offense played better than what most would have expected. But then, you know, in the fourth quarter, it's just they fell apart. You know, they couldn't stay consistent. You know, the Saints adjusted and the Bears didn't. I know people were saying, why did they stop doing RPO with fucking Tyson Bagent? And they started doing like, you know, just having him sit in the pocket, and you know he was really doing good when he was scrambling to the outside and passing the ball.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why they changed things up when things were working originally, but they did, and the Saints caught on to it and obviously executed very well. But I want to talk a little bit about Tyson Bagent. So he had three interceptions, 1 fumble. He was 30 for 18, 220 yards, 2 touchdown passes to Cole Kmet, and 70 rushing yards. So yeah, I mean, when you see that 3 interceptions, that doesn't sound too good.
Cole balled out. He had those 2
Yeah.
good catches, man.
And you know, so one
Balled
was
out.
he gave, you know, Tyson Bagent threw the ball up 1-on-1 situation. Cole Kmet made a great catch. And the second time, Tyson Bagent put it right in his hands. It was just a great throw.
That was the first
touchdown
drive,
pass.
right? With Cole
Yeah,
Kmet?
yeah. I saw that. It alerted me on my phone while I was on a call.
You know,
and I was like, man, I can't
every single week it's the same thing. The Bears have a great first drive, great first quarter,
That's
and
what
then
I'm
it's
saying.
just like they completely fall apart because I don't know, after the second half the teams figure us out or whatnot, and we can't adjust or do anything about it.
Yeah, but you know, I think these are, you know, like everyone is on Bagent's case right now because he threw 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter.
Damn near 4. You got lucky with one of them.
Right. How many interceptions do you think Bryce Young threw?
Well, he threw 2 pick sixes in one game, so that's pretty
Right,
pretty
but
bad.
I'm saying this past game, the game that they just played. How many interceptions do you think he threw?
At least 2 to 3.
Yeah.
3.
Three.
He threw 3 interceptions
Yeah.
too. And you know what? This whole year, I think Bryce Young really hasn't looked that good. And
CJ
he
Stroud
was,
is
Yeah,
overshadowed.
CJ Stroud's a dog, man.
let me tell you though, Bryce Young was drafted number 1 overall in the first round. And who would you rather have in your team right now, Tyson Bagent or Bryce Young? I think the answer is pretty clear. Who would you rather have? So I guess I'm kind of getting fed up with people saying that.
You know what? I don't think that's true. I would rather have Bryce Young.
Even though Tyson Bagent is outperforming him.
He's not really outperforming him. You know,
How so?
they're throwing picks, they're making stupid decisions. I would rather have a first overall pick with the potential of being an elite quarterback rather
Right.
than going with an undrafted quarterback,
I think-
honestly.
well,
and I'm not trying to talk shit about Bagent,
I know,
but I would rather gamble on a first overall pick of the draft than an undrafted free agent.
But-
That's just my opinion.
But just because he
Yeah.
was drafted number 1 overall, well, why is that mean he's automatically better? What makes that what to you says that means he's better than another player?
Well, across
Because
the
he-
board, scouts across the board, coaches and everything,
Right.
deem necessary that this guy is the number 1 pick, you know, and if it wasn't the Panthers taking Bryce Young, I'm sure
But
another
there
team would have
was
taken
there
Bryce
was
Young, number
scouts
1.
too that were concerned because of his height, his ability to be able to see over the offensive defensive line. So there was scouts too that said they wouldn't pick him.
Look, there's some worry. There's some worry with Bryce Young and with just like, his dimensions, right? He's like, people have considered him like a Kyler Murray 2.0. It's possible.
Yeah,
Even Kyler Murray with his dimensions, like he's shown that he could be good too. I mean, he's very inconsistent. Yeah, he is.
And that's if he stops playing Call of Duty.
But what I'm going to say is this: I think Bryce Young, who's the best receiver? Who's his best option?
He doesn't
Adam Thielen.
He doesn't have any.
Adam Thielen. So I mean, look, Tyson Bagent. As bad as the Bears are as a team, I think Tyson Bagent is in a better position to succeed. I think the Carolina Panthers are a much worse team than the Bears. I actually personally think that the Bears could be a very good team on paper. I just think they don't have the leadership still with Bagent, with Fields, and I feel like that's why they're underperforming. But from a talent-wise, I think the Bears actually can stand up with a lot of the good teams. I'm still going to fall back on this, and I don't want to compare Bryce Young to Tyson Bagent. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I get it, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think if we're going to compare quarterbacks, it should be comparing Tyson Bagent to Justin Fields.
So,
in my opinion, I think that Tyson Bagent's ultimate test for me in the short term was on the road against Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Chargers. I said going into that game that this game is going to be heavy for me. I'm going to put a lot of weight on it. And what happened? He didn't look good. The team didn't look good. We absolutely got destroyed. We faltered in Los Angeles.
He didn't completely look bad.
So, Brandon, you said that if the Bears played to their full potential, they would be a decent team. Where do you think in the NFL they would stand if they did play to their full potential?
Man, you know what? I think the Bears. This is going to be kind of a broad answer, right?
Yeah, I know, but going into the season, there was a lot of hype around.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think this is going to be a broad answer, but especially in our sorry division, the Packers aren't good. The Vikings are even the Vikings aren't a good team. They really aren't. They got rid of pieces. They only had Justin Jefferson. You look in hindsight now, they don't even have Justin Jefferson. They just lost Kirk. So this division was super winnable. Many of the games. Detroit's a good team. I get it. But they're beatable, right? I mean, they're beatable. They signed a guy that we had for many years in David Montgomery, who we saw was progressing, and he was pretty good. But I think this was a winnable division. So you take that into account, that's already at least 4 out of 6 wins within our own division, right? Then you got another 11 games to kind of figure out. You win 6 out of those 11 games, boom, you have 10 wins. Boom, you're in the playoffs. I think the Bears could have done this. I think the Bears had a soft schedule. I think from a talent perspective, if you want my broad opinion, I think they're making the playoffs as a wild card. For sure.
Fair enough.
If they played up to their talent. But they don't have the leadership to do that.
I don't think they're making the play. Brandon, they're 2-7 right now.
I'm saying going into the season.
Going into the season, if the Bears played at their full potential. Brandon said that they could have been a wild card.
I'm going to shout out Joe, though. I'm going to shout out Joe, though.
I thought that, too.
Joe said, but Joe, since day one, Joe had so much concern with this actual team during the regular season because of what he saw in the preseason. He said, guys, I'm concerned.
It all stemmed from that Bills team, or that Bills game.
And you know what? Joe, you were right.
It concerned me that Tyson Bagent was playing better than Justin Fields, and Justin Fields was throwing to all the wide receiver 1s, and Tyson Bagent was throwing to wide receiver 4s and 5s and looked better. I mean, I don't know. That's what was concerning to me. I know we didn't see a lot of Justin Fields in the preseason, and everyone was saying, well, they're not going to release all our great plays so people could study them. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I'll take that. I'll believe that. The first game, we got our asses kicked to the Packers. That was miserable. Like, what are we doing?
That was heartbreaking.
It was, and I lost all faith after that because I felt like we were at home. This is our time to beat the Packers
against Jordan Love. Like, what was it? His second start ever? Second NFL
start.
I'm
pretty sure.
Second NFL start ever, and the first time he was actually on the roster to be a starter.
And the fact that it was in Soldier Field too, and the Bears got blown out.
So think about Jordan Love. Like, imagine the pressure he had. Right, he's filling the shoes of one of the all-time greats in Soldier Field, where they already have the Packers already have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
Jordan Love had a lot of pressure on himself, the same way that Fields has had pressure on himself going into that Packers game that we've given him a pass for. So for Jordan Love to play the way he did and the Packers show up like that, it shows that they're better coached. It shows that they're more prepared. They spend more time in preparation, and they're just a better team.
So I want to get back on Tyson Bagent here. How many interceptions do you think Peyton Manning threw his rookie year?
And 28 to be exact.
Yep, 28 interceptions.
28.
And
You knew that?
The only reason why I knew that is because Joe sent that text message earlier.
Okay.
So I
was
knew
gonna
it from
say,
that, but no, I did not
okay.
know that. Also.
So JF1, Justin Fields, right now, his QBR is 31.4. I think we talked about this. If you take a snap, drop back with the ball, and spike it into the ground in every play, your QBR is 39. His right now is 31.4. He had a game against the Bucs where he threw 3 interceptions, and we're beating up Bagent for throwing 3 interceptions. I just don't think it's fair that we're still going back to this. Well, he played for a D2 college. He also had probably played more games than most rookie QBs ever have. He's 23 years old. He played all 4 years in college. He had a lot of reps.
Okay, but if we're taking the good from what Bagent has accomplished so far in his early career, why can't we not take the good from what Justin Fields did in those 2 game spans where he threw 8 touchdown passes in 2 games?
Because a lot of that
it gets a little ridiculous.
Because a lot of that was him running and getting just running with the ball. And Justin Fields has been injured 4 times, Andrew. Do we want to continue to see him get injured? We don't. Part of the evaluation, if he comes back, is if he gets injured again, that's part of his evaluation. He doesn't know how to not take unnecessary hits. He's been injured 4 times.
Okay, and I think we're jumping into some other thing that I want to talk about.
Sure.
Okay, so before we got Montez Sweat, I think everyone was in on some sort of whatever about the Bears are going to draft an O lineman and a D lineman pretty early on, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone thought that was true. Since the Montez Sweat deal, do the Bears draft a quarterback with their number 1 now, and then an O lineman with their number 2?
It's hard to answer.
The problem is, who do you pick? Who do you pick next year? Do we still want Caleb Williams?
I would not feel comfortable drafting Caleb Williams.
You know what?
Everything I've read about him, I don't know.
I'm at a point
You might
now.
as well keep Justin Fields then.
I'm at a point now where I think Fields is our guy. I think Fields has to be our guy. I think that's the only thing that works. I think that if Bagent, and I'm not ruling out Bagent, Joe.
Okay.
I think that if Bagent can get us a couple dubs and actually lower his interception rate, and I don't know. I think Bagent really has to come out and prove that he's the guy.
You know who the only people that are saying that Bagent would be a solid backup QB are people on 670 The Score and other sports analysts. You know who people are saying that he could be a caliber starter? Are actual NFL players. And I'll name 3 of them right here. So one of them is Boomer Esiason. I don't know how to say that. You got Esiason. Whatever. Boomer E. Whatever. However you say that guy's name. 1988 NFL MVP. First team All-Pro. 4-time Pro Bowl. 14-year veteran. Said after the first half versus the Saints, if Tyson Bagent keeps playing like this, I don't know how they go back to Justin Fields. Chris Collinsworth said on the previous game.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but if Bagent keeps playing like this, I don't know how we're going to go back to Justin Fields. You said earlier Justin Fields had a 31 and QB rating, right? So that's
31,
obviously not good.
31.8.
Would Bagent be starting against an actual be fighting up against a decent quarterback or whatnot? Probably not. But
Joe, you know what? I agree, dude.
Bagent get the reps.
I think the eye test is enough for me to say, hey, Bagent's legit. I'm serious. I think Bagent is legit. I think he can compete in this league. I think that the Bears, and this goes back to the whole conversation we had last week, and Panky joined us, and the Bears are in a bad spot because if you're the Bears organization or if you're a Bears fan, You don't want to be, and I'll use the example Pinky used, right? You don't want to be in the Mac Jones, Zappy situation.
Yeah, those are
That's
all-
what we're in right now.
Yeah,
we need
another
to know
first-round guy, Andrew. For
we
you,
need to
Mac
know
Jones.
who
How
our
well is
number
he
one
doing?
guy is. It's not healthy for us fans. It's not healthy for the organization to be split on this. And I think that we've put way too many eggs in the Justin Fields basket to not utilize him. Now, I think Bagent, I think he's had enough time now to kind of prove himself.
3 games.
He's had 3 games.
3.5 if you, well, 3.25, I guess.
And and you know what? It's tough. But I think at this point, we've got the sample size of Bagent. I think we let Bagent take a few steps back into the backup role. At least now all of us Bear fans know what he's capable of. We let Fields kind of take that position back with the chip on his shoulder that, hey, we have a decent backup quarterback that can replace you at any time in Bagent. Maybe that's what Justin Fields needed, was for Bagent to prove himself. Because in my opinion, Bagent has proved himself.
How long do you
And
think
friendly
it takes,
competition goes a long way.
That's what I'm saying.
So I think that would benefit.
How
Justin
long do you think
Fields.
it takes to properly evaluate a quarterback? It takes 20 games to properly evaluate a quarterback. Justin Fields right now is 5 for 25. So he's had 30 games where he started, and out of those 30 games, he's only won 5.
Okay, but
Tyson Bagent has had 3 games, and he's
okay.
won 1 out of the 3.
Okay, I agree with the 20, but a 20 with a solid team around him. But what happens if that team is absolute dog shit like the Bears for multiple seasons and Justin Fields
Joe
has never
Burrow.
had any help within those 20 games?
Okay, what about
is
Joe-
it safe
Joe
to
Burrow?
overall grade him?
Joe Burrow didn't have an offensive line.
Yeah, but he had and Jamar Chase.
Okay,
Who
so
knows?
what's the excuse now for DJ Moore with Justin Fields?
No, the Bengals always had a good offensive line.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they have.
They
Let
had
me
the-
ask you
probably
this.
the worst-
Look,
they probably had the worst offensive line.
We
when-
gotta start evaluating
Joe
it.
Burrow.
This is a hard thing to evaluate, boys. I think we need to start evaluating it on a week-to-week basis. And the facts are that we played in my opinion, we played a pretty soft Saints team who has Derek Carr as their quarterback, and we lost. And
Yeah,
a
but
big
they have a
reason
great
why we lost.
defense,
A big
though.
reason we lost
They have a
is
good defense.
that's fine, but we have a decent offense that we should be able to combat them. We have
but
Foreman who's playing
our
well.
top wide receiver had probably one of the worst games of his career. With that game was probably the worst game of
Okay,
his
then you
career.
fall back on a guy like Komet. You fall back on a guy like
Darnell
which
Mooney,
they
who
stepped
did have
up.
a good game. Who
Right,
did have?
Yeah,
they both
they
both
step
have
up.
stepped up, and they both.
It
looked
happens,
good,
dude. It
obviously,
happened.
but-
It happened a couple weeks ago. Devontae Smith, the absolute stud, and it's crazy to even say this. He's their second wide receiver option behind AJ Brown. He had a couple bad, miserable drops. Devontae Smith, who's a fucking stud with Philadelphia, and he in the post game he was like, you know what? I just gotta catch those damn balls, man.
Okay.
It happens, but you gotta have your team to bounce you back. But I don't think that DJ Moore dropping passes has anything to do with.
Well, he had a
throwing
fumble
3
too.
picks.
He had a fumble.
So did Bagent.
I know, but I'm
So
just,
Bagent had 4 turnovers, Joe. 3 interceptions and a fumble.
Boys.
That's not good.
one of the fumbles though was the offensive line. I mean, he didn't. I mean, I know your job is to protect the football when you get sacked, but I mean, he was about to throw it. I mean, the defender just tackled him very well and knocked the ball out. He did a great tackle.
Okay.
So I feel like we can't count that fumble. The three interceptions, absolutely.
I do have a question I want to ask both of you, and you guys can answer freely. Let's say both the Chicago Bears quarterback fail out. Bagent doesn't live up to what he was supposed to do, nor does Justin Fields, right? Who's to say we will ever be in this draft order again? So going into next season, the way both of these guys are playing, how do we not grab a quarterback with one of our first picks?
Well, because
Because there's a lot of uncertainty behind Bagent. There's a lot of uncertainty behind Justin Fields. So, and I want to say this again. Who's to say we'll be in this predicament again with the draft? Because who knows next season? Maybe next season we'll figure it out.
This is what the Bears need to do. What the Bears need to do is there's no options right now. There's 3 options the Bears have. No, there's 2 options the Bears have. They either keep evaluating Fields and or Bagent until one of them pan out, and eventually, hopefully, one of the 2 of those guys step up. And again, as a Bears fan, I'm rooting for both guys. I don't have a strong
So am
stance
I.
on either.
So am I.
I don't give a shit who ends up being our guy, as long as one of them do. If those guys don't pan out, we have to sign a crazy free agent quarterback signing. We're not getting our quarterback in the draft. It's an awkward time for us because what the Bears are going to do is the Bears are going to stick with either Justin Fields or Bagent, which I'm not going to predict who. That's to be determined. What they're going to do is they're going to bank on, if one of those two guys aren't doing good this year, or both of them, that one of those two guys will be good next year when we draft well and we sign a couple guys during free agency, because the Bears do have a lot of cap space. So I think tentatively, I think there's no question there's a 0% chance the Bears draft a quarterback. They're 100% banking on either Bagent or Fields. And if neither of them are successful this year, again, they are going to make sure that our free agent signings and our draft picks are going to make one of them good next year. And that's what we're going to do. Bank it.
Well, let's hope you're right, because I think there's going to be a lot of flack.
Do you agree, though? Does that make sense?
No, yes,
I would rather
it
see us
does
do
make
that
sense, but what I'm
than
just
draft
saying,
a
the
quarterback.
Bears are
100%,
going to
yes.
be under a lot of flack if we do not pick a quarterback with our pick next year, and both of these quarterbacks end up not working
Like Joe,
out. That's going to be
Joe,
an issue.
I know that you love. I know that you're big on Bagent, as we all are. We all from the eye test, we've seen some good things. But ultimately, if Fields ends up being that guy, we want him to be that guy. We just got to see it from one of the two of them at this point. They got to have their own competition, and one of them has to show out. Whoever it is, I'm happy about it. And I hope you guys feel the same way.
Of course.
Yeah,
I don't want to see a Chicago quarterback fail, obviously, but I mean, I could have my doubts, right?
We have a lot of cap room.
Yeah, we do have a lot of cap room. We could go out and spend, but what good quarterbacks are going to be available through free agency? Probably not many, because they all get signed to massive extensions.
There's good quarterbacks that come every
You know what?
year,
Look
man.
at dude.
You know, we saw guys like Derek Carr and Jimmy G,
When
but
I'm
those guys aren't really that good.
Well, I'm going to argue with
Yeah,
that.
wouldn't you rather have Tyson Bagent than them? I would.
I agree, but I'm saying, like, sometimes if it's a quarterback that fits the scheme and fits the coaching staff and is a leader, it could work. I want to use Jimmy G, who you just dogged on, as an example. What happened? He was the backup quarterback with New England, went to San Francisco. 1 or 2 years later,
He was putting a good system.
Yeah, but he's always been a
that's
really
what I'm
good
saying.
system.
He was putting a good system, but still, maybe we find a guy, a veteran quarterback with the leadership presence, who fits our scheme.
Well, we tried to do that with Andy Dalton, and then he got hurt. Then
Hell
we put
no.
Justin Fields.
Hell
Hell
no.
no.
Andy Dalton, when he came to our team, he knew that he was the fucking
But when he played for
punching
the
bag.
Bengals,
He knew they were going to suck.
He was pretty good though when he in his prime on the Bengals.
Yeah,
he
but
was solid.
But when we signed Andy Dalton, he knew it was a death sentence. He wasn't coming here to be good.
He was
coming
playing
here
just to
lose
stay
games.
relevant
Yeah.
and make
He was
some money.
coming here to lose games.
But it did work out because Justin Fields could have sat and kind of learned a little bit from him, and obviously he only 3 games or something where
Yeah.
Andy Dalton got hurt, then Justin Fields came in. But to be honest, this is what I think. This is my honest opinion on what I think is going to happen. I think that there's a 50-50 chance that Justin Fields plays on Thursday. I mean, I'm sure he really wants to, but I think it's a mistake if his finger's still bothering him. And I think the reason why he wants to is because the Panthers suck and their leading edge rusher is out. So their defense is garbage and their offense is garbage. And I'm sure he really wants to come back. You know, this is the game that he'll look great in. I think Tyson Bagent or him would look really good in.
Justin Fields will get
Good point.
another starting opportunity with the Bears.
Well, he's going to be the starter as soon as he's healthy.
when he gets his starting opportunity again, which he will, he's going to have to prove that he's made some strides.
Yeah, because the Lions
Simple as
game
that.
is next week, so I'm
Simple
sure
as
he
that.
wants to use this game to bounce back, which, fine, whatever, man. Part of his evaluation is making sure he can not take unnecessary hits and get hurt. So either way, at the end of the season, they're going to start Fields, evaluate him till the end. What they're going to do is probably trade Bagent or drop him, whatever they're going to do, or some team's going to request him. They're going to trade Fields, probably draft a quarterback, then draft either Marvin Harrison Jr., which he's looking pretty good, Ohio State wide receiver, the best right now in college. They're probably going to either draft him or an edge rusher or an offensive lineman, and we're going to be having the same conversation 3 years from now, and Tyson Bagent's going to look like an all-star somewhere, and so is Justin Fields. That's exactly what's going to happen. If you want my honest opinion on what's going to happen in the future.
I think the Bears should stay away from drafting a wide receiver. I think our main focus right now is simply the O-line and D-line. If the Bears draft a wide receiver, I'm going to be very upset because we have some good guys around our quarterbacks to throw to. We have some weapons.
We need the guys in the trenches.
We need guys to protect our quarterback. We need guys.
I just told you what I think they're going to do. I really honestly think they're going to get rid of Fields and Bagent. They're going to draft a quarterback, and we're going to be having the same conversation
this offseason
from now. Yes.
You think they're going to draft a quarterback?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
I think they're going to do.
It makes sense, and I said that.
That's not what I want them to do. I want them to keep, I want them to keep Bagent. That's what I want them to do, but I know that's not what they're going to do. They're going to put in Fields, have him play out the season, which I hope he does do good, man. Then we have our quarterback, but I know that's not what's going to happen because of the last 2 years, how he's performed. And then they're going to get rid of Fields at the end of the season, and Bagent probably, and draft a quarterback and a wide receiver or offensive lineman or defensive players.
Like I said, gentlemen, like I said, I get it, and everything we're saying makes sense, and it is important to look in the long term.
That's Bears football, baby.
But all I'm trying to say is, for now,
this will be our 5th first-round quarterback that we've drafted.
We got to keep doing it until we get one, though.
All I'm saying is that for now, we have to dial it back. We gotta look at things on a week-to-week basis. And what the other thing I'll say is that I don't care who starts on Sunday or this next game coming up. I don't care if it's Bagent or Fields. Ultimately, if either of them do very well, I'm sorry to say I'm not going to be extremely impressed. I think, again, I need to see them do well against a good team.
You know what's funny, Brendan? I just thought of. So if Justin Fields does play against the Panthers, that's ultimately the team that, if he beats them, that means that we have a higher round draft pick into drafting a quarterback that Justin Fields helped us get.
So that's a good point, Joe. So since obviously at this point, right, we kind of want the Bears and Carolina to lose both teams.
Yeah.
Who will benefit us more in the long run in terms of drafting to lose this game?
Right. So Justin Fields beating a team that will help us draft a quarterback to replace him, which is kind of ironic.
I think, Andrew, I just brought up to Joe, I said, which team losing this week will benefit us more? I think it's Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Because we want them to get the one.
Yes.
We want the one. So.
And Justin Fields.
The Bears need to win.
And Arizona, for those who don't know, Arizona's right there with us. But
they're 1-8.
We're favored by
the
3
Bears
points
need to freaking to win this game.
At least Kyler Murray's coming back.
And you know what
hopefully he
the
can
funny
get
thing
some dubs for Arizona.
With Bagent or Fields in, Vegas doesn't have the score any different. We're still favored by 3, regardless of who plays.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. How many times are we going to see the Bears favored going into a matchup this year?
Yeah,
we better enjoy this shit.
We're at home field too. So, and the Panthers are, I think, right now, the worst team in the NFL. I think is the Cardinals. I want to say, and then after the Cardinals, it's the Panthers. Yeah. So I mean.
Well, like I said, they're getting Kyler back. So maybe they're a step ahead of Carolina now. But either way, we got to get that one pick. That's huge to our potential.
Yeah.
And then what do? Do we trade our number 1 pick if we get it?
I was just about to bring that up. I swear to God, that would be very enticing. That'd be enticing. Imagine if we go out and trade our first pick again. We get another guy like DJ Moore, not a wide receiver, but like a stud like DJ Moore to fill another position as well as.
I think if we get
Marvin Harrison Jr.
If we get the number 1 pick,
I hope not.
We 100% trade it away. No questions. If I'm the GM, easiest decision of my life.
Because
I already said it.
Because hey, look,
we're rolling with Fields or Bagent. We're trading our fucking number 1 draft pick, and then we're getting a good fucking team. One of those guys are going to prove it.
If we want a good defensive lineman, then we're going to have to keep our early picks, and draft high. But we could afford to give away a pick and draft an O-lineman around the same spot we got at Darnell Wright.
You can still get the best edge rusher in the draft at like the 3 or 4 pick.
That's
depending on the projected.
Yeah. So without a doubt, if we trade our number 1 and let's say we end the season with the 3rd
no
or 4th
harm, no
pick,
foul.
we could trade for the whatever. We get the 10th pick in return. We draft another O-lineman as well as the defensive lineman, and we're all happy.
What you're trying to say is, if we get the number 1 pick, we trade the number 1 pick to get the number 3 or 4 pick, right? And ultimately we're still getting our guy in the first, and we're getting free capital just because it worked out for us, right? Because we're trading the one, we're getting our guy at the third pick. We're getting an extra second round to show for it. We're getting an extra first round next year to show for it.
Yeah, clearly, obviously, that would probably be a good decision.
For sure.
I don't see the Bears being playoff contenders for probably another 2.5 years. So.
I don't know. I kind of do not agree with that. I think the Bears have a lot of freaking draft capital. They have a lot of money to spend in free agency. If they draft the necessary pieces that we need, like I'm beating a dead horse here, like another O-lineman, another defensive lineman, I think all of a sudden you start looking at the Bears and you're like, okay, now we have somewhat of a decent offensive line. We already have a good receiving core, and now our D-line has just been beefed up even more after Montez Sweat with another guy to show for it. So next year, I think the Bears could make strides if we figure out the quarterback position, if one of them steps up.
Joe, I appreciate your take on all of this because you're kind of like the defeated Bears fan that we all feel.
Yeah.
And I feel you, dude.
We all are defeated.
Believe me, I feel you. Yeah. However, something inside of me is telling me that I agree with Andrew. Like, I get really excited thinking about all the cap space that we have and all the draft capital that we have and the projected draft picks that we have coming up next year in this offseason.
For sure.
In 1 year's time, think about it. You spend a little bit of money, you get a couple more fucking Montez Sweat type of signings. You're looking good. Then you add some young talent. Then you have a guy like Darnell Wright, who's in his second year with more experience. You get a little bit more healthy because we went into this year pretty damaged. I mean, next year could be very fucking exciting. It all boils down to one of those quarterbacks. You know, for sure.
Callis Hall is in flames at the moment, but next year, I promise the fire extinguisher is on its way.
So
that's my opinion.
What do you guys think about Velus Jones Jr.? I mean, he had that 15-yard face mask, dropped a pass that almost turned into a fumble. Why is this guy still on the team? Honestly,
I think
at this point, wouldn't you rather have Chase Claypool back than Velus Jones Jr.?
Absolutely not. I think Jones Jr. serves a purpose. I think the Bears know that they're not contending this year, and quite frankly, he's doing us a favor.
He was a third round pick,
and he's helping us lose games and have a better draft. And quite frankly, I'm going to have reverse psychology. I appreciate Jones Jr. at the moment, so we get a better draft pick.
You shouldn't anytime.
But yes, he does suck, and he should not be on a team moving forward when the Bears are serious about competing.
Yeah. Well, I think Ryan Poles knows he made a mistake by drafting him in the third round. Once again, according to 670, the score. They say in order to be good, you have to be drafted. So, that's just their motto that they go by. But he just is not good, Velus Jones Jr. Every time he's out on the field, I get nervous. Please do not throw the ball to him. Or if he's on a kick return, luckily they took him off of punt returns. But it's please do not kick the ball to him. Just hopefully it's a touchback. It's nerve-wracking anytime you see him out there doing anything. And it boggles my mind why we still have him on the team. So hopefully they make the right decision and we get rid of him. But I do want to say, shout out Cole Kmet. Right now he is tied for fourth in Bears history for touchdowns with a total of 14. The only one the four that he's tied with is Ditka, Olsen, Clark. Those are the only ones that are ahead of him, excuse me. Right now, currently in 2023, he's second in touchdowns, fourth in receptions, and fourth in catch percentage. So, Cole Kmet, man, it looks like he is having his breakout year.
You guys can say if I'm wrong, and I have no issue with that on live camera, but I feel as if Cole Kmet, he's very good for us. He's a big, athletic guy. He blocks,
good blocker, too.
He blocks well, but feels that he's not consistent. He has games where you have stardom to where he absolutely pops off, and then there's games where he doesn't really and contribute much.
It was
that
was throwing him before.
I think even more so than that, I think it's just the nature of the position. I think tight ends are on a week-to-week basis, they're just used differently. I think tight ends aren't always in a position where they're going to exceed like that. You got a couple guys like that in this league who will do that, right? Kelsey and
no, for sure.
That's how I feel about that. As someone who's played fantasy football for the past 10 years. I don't care what tight end it is. You'll have a Mark Andrews guy play really well. Next week he's struggling a bit. So
Yeah, it's hit or miss.
overall, I love those stats, Joe. Cole Kmet's been
Yeah.
a big bright spot on this team of not many. So
That's really all I have for the Bears. I mean, there's not a lot to say. Hopefully, whatever decision they make going forward, I really hope that it's the right one. I feel like I'm almost alone a lot of the times on this, but I'd really rather see Bagent play the rest of the year out. Dan Orlovsky even said, as a young rookie quarterback, throw some interceptions. You have to learn that way. I know other rookies throw interceptions, like Bryce Young throwing 3, but, Tyson Bagent does it, and, it's because he's a D2 quarterback. But, hey, who cares about, the number 1 overall pick throwing 3 interceptions the same week? But, hey, if you're an undrafted rookie free agent coming from a D2 college, that means that's why. But nothing to do with the first overall pick. He gets a pass because of that, because he was a first overall pick.
I never said he gets a pass. I
never said you said that, but other people are saying that. Or they're like hinting because he wasn't drafted and he played in a D2 college. That means he's no good, according to 670 to score. And David Hughes said I asked an attacking question to him. Even though that's his job to be asked questions, and all it was a question similar to that, like, hey, why do you keep saying that this guy is no good because he came from a D2 school when you have a guy that was a Division I college player that came in and threw 3 interceptions too? Why is he no good?
Tell us about that a little bit more, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious.
Yeah.
So you called into a show.
Yeah.
And what exactly did you say?
I didn't call into the show. I sent him a DM through Instagram, and I basically said, hey, man, so why do you keep saying that just because you came from a D2 school means you said that Tyson Bagent will basically amount to nothing because he came from a D2 school, and it showed it that game. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, I'm like, okay, so what about Bryce Young? He came from a D1 school and was number 1 drafted overall, and he threw 3 interceptions. So how come he gets a pass, but Tyson Bagent doesn't? And he said that I asked an attacking question to him, and he didn't answer the question, and he said that he turned the ball over 13 times in the last 3 games, and he ended it like that. Now that I re-asked him, I'm like, well, you didn't answer my question. That why aren't you saying anything about Bryce Young throwing 3 interceptions and he was number 1 drafted, but you are about Tyson Bagent? And that's basically all it was. And he couldn't answer my question, and it was attacking to him, so you just left it at that. But it seems like a lot of people can't answer that question. And like I said to you, Andrew, before, that it seems like it's only sports analysts that are saying bad things. But you hear all these athletes, professional athletes, Pro Bowlers, MVPs that are saying good things about him.
This is my take
that
on
gets dismissed. That stuff gets dismissed.
This is my take on it, because Bagent has not done much for us.
Games.
Yeah, but he's also, like you said, turned over the ball
He did win a
13
game
times.
for us, too,
He did turn over the ball 13 times. So the whole point is, Justin Fields has not showed us any promise, but at the same time,
Justin Fields
has also played bad. Bagent has also played bad to where he doesn't deserve the starting spot either. So the whole I feel like it's okay to question whether or not.
So does Bryce Young deserve a starting spot?
I'm not talking about Bryce Young. I'm not. That's a different team. I really don't care about Bryce Young.
What I'm getting at is, why doesn't Bagent get a deserve?
I want to make one comment
to play out the rest of the year.
I want to say that, Joe. I will say I feel like where we differ is not in I have a respect level for Bagent. I like what I've seen. I think where me and you differ, Joe, is that I don't give a fuck if it's Fields or Bagent. I just want a Chicago quarterback to come in and fucking save us. Joe, to me, Joe, I'll be honest though. To me, it sounds like you fucking hate Justin Fields and you only want Bagent to be good. Is that true or no?
No, that's not true.
That's the impression that I get.
I know that's what a lot of people get, that impression, but. Andrew, was I not the biggest Fields believer at the start of this year? Did I not defend you when Alex Pankey was ripping on Fields, and I said, hey, text him back who were Justin Fields' wide receivers because he didn't have any last year? Did I not buy every rookie card of Justin Fields because I thought he was going to be the Michael Jordan of Chicago for football. I had total faith in Justin Fields, man. But after watching the preseason, which, okay, I gave that a pass because it's a preseason, you know? Like, yeah, Luke Getsy's probably not setting the best plays out there. You know, he only played like three plays, or he only had 2 or 3 drives, whatever. You know, I can't look at that. But when we got our asses handed to us to the Packers, and we got our asses kicked for the next 4 games, and you know, he's out there underperforming, saying he looks robotic, then he blames the coaching. And the last 2 years, I mean, he had some good flashes running and stuff, but, you know, like, I'll keep reiterating this, Terry Bradshaw, he even said that in order to be a good NFL quarterback, you have to be able to pass in the pocket. Justin Fields is just not a pocket passer. Tyson Bagent is.
Well,
so that's why I have more faith in Tyson Bagent.
I'm just going to end it as this. I think Bagent fucking sucks. I think Fields sucks, but I'd rather see Fields out there personally. But I hope.
But why?
I already said.
He was drafted.
I already
in the first
said
round.
Bagent hasn't proved anything to us. So there's no reason why you should be defending Bagent as much as you have been. If Bagent came in the 3 games and lit the world on fire, then 100% that'd be factual. But the fact that he hasn't proved.
I don't think any rookie quarterback
hasn't proved anything. So why would we not give Justin Fields another fucking starting
to
game?
Andrew's point, to your point, I think that we've never seen Justin Fields in peril. I think now, having seen what Bagent can do and him always being, you know, looming there, ready to take Fields' spot, I think now it's time to give Fields another opportunity. And for the first time, Fields' job is in peril. And I think let's give Fields another shot when he's healthy. Let's give him a chance. We've seen what Bagent can do. We put him back on the bench, and we just let the season ride out. And what happens, happens. Whatever happens, I'm happy as long as one of them are playing well.
I think we're all in some agreement that what you just said. If one of them pans out, we'll be happy. Let's hope one of them does.
Okay, so we've been on the football topic for a minute. Yeah. Good conversation.
You guys want to do the prediction score?
We can do that. Yeah.
Before we move on.
Yep.
So the Bears play the Panthers Thursday night. So they play them at home. The Bears are favored. I kind of talked about this. Vegas has them at 3, regardless if Fields or Bagent plays, which that's not a big shocker to me. I think that the Bears do win this game by 20-10.
That's a fun prediction.
I think the Bears win the game. The Bears 24, the Panthers 17.
I agree. I think the Bears win, and honestly, this is one of those predictions that it's just completely. I'm not looking at any stats or anything. I'm just looking at what I want to happen. So I'm just gonna go with it, right? I've got the Bears winning as well against the Panthers. I think it's gonna be a. You know what? I'm gonna go with the modest 21-7. Chicago Bears winning.
Well, you heard it here. The Bears aren't winning this week, actually. They better win this week. If they don't win this week, I mean, there's going to be a lot of very upset fans, that's for sure. Well, I mean, I don't see a world where they don't win this game, but that being said, it is the Chicago Bears, so we all may be taking a shot next week. Actually, never mind. But well, yeah, moving on. That was a good.
Andrew, before we move in, because I know you're going to touch on baseball for quite a bit, I just wanted to touch on just a few things. First and foremost, I wanted to touch on the Blackhawks. I want to preface this, right? I know we used to say this on the first couple episodes of the pod, and I want to remind you guys that ultimately what we are is just a bunch of casual, passionate fans who like Chicago sports, and we just enjoy talking about it. We enjoy following it. But what I will say is that this year, personally, I do feel like, especially with the baseball season just ending, especially with the Bears being a suspect team all around, with me not having a lot of enjoyment watching the Sox this year, I felt like I did want to start incorporating like the Blackhawks into what I enjoy watching as a Chicago sports fan. So I had the pleasure of actually watching the back-to-back games we had over the last couple days. And I just want to say it was a good experience. I think the first game, the Bears, it was blowout.
The Hawks.
The Hawks. Yes, blowout.
So used to saying the Bears,
I know. We went up like 4-0 with like 5 minutes in the second period. So 15 minutes left in the second period. Ready up four goals. So that was enjoyable. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Connor Bedard's celly was amazing. It was very Kaner-esque. So that was really enjoyable to watch. And then I also watched the New Jersey game. By the way, going back to that first game of the back-to-back, like I think Mrazek is an absolute stud at goaltender from what I've seen. I actually questioned why we had Soderblom starting in the other game, like the second game against the New Jersey Devils, because I understand that it's back-to-back, but when you consider that you're having 4 days off in a row before your next game on the road on Thursday, how, in my opinion, I was questioning why you couldn't just start your better goaltender in back-to-back games. If you have any comments on that, comment below, debate me on it, teach me on it. I'm not sure, but I think Mrazek is the better goaltender. I think we should start him when we can.
With that being said, it is early on in the season, and they want to see what Soderblom, has in store. So it does make sense. You do got to give him some playing time.
In all fairness, Soderblom, he is much younger as well, so they do want to give him some playing time. But at the same time, and
they're both young, they're both fighting for, so.
I get it, but do you feel like they're fighting for it, or do you feel like Mrazek's our number one guy?
Well, yeah, I do think that, but.
I think Mrazek's our number one guy, so why not put your best players out on the ice?
Yeah, I think he is, but it's just like baseball. You got to give people days off and other people a shot.
I understand. I guess my argument is that when you're playing only 3 games in a week, you're well rested. Start your best guys, but I get it, right? You gotta let your other guys try. You don't know. You might have a gold mine.
I forgot who it was. I forgot which goalie it was, but the amount of stress and how physical that spot is on the ice. I forgot which goalie it was, but he would lose a consistent 15 pounds every freaking game he played.
Wow.
And that was in water weight. Yeah, just from sweat and everything. So it is a very physical, demanding job, and you should get some days off every now and then. But
kind of like pitchers for baseball.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to give I'm going to give you a little pushback. Yeah, you should get a day off every now and then, but if you're going to play back-to-back games and then you're going to be off Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, next game's Thursday, you have those 4 or 5 days to rest as a goalie. So, let me see here. One thing I want to give a shout out. I do believe it was the New Jersey Devils goalie, Vitek Vanesic, but he had, I don't know if you guys saw the video, he had probably this early in the season, he probably had Save of the Year candidate already. It was absolutely absurd. It was in the third period, I believe, end of the second period or beginning of the third period. He had an unbelievable save. So if you guys haven't seen it, you got to check it out. I'm not trying to shout out the opposing team's goaltender too much, but you gotta acknowledge a good fucking play.
Of course. We could all respect a good play. But I will say, when Connor Bedard gains his full confidence, that's going to be very scary. I'm not sure if he's at that point yet. He has been doing very well, but when a young kid and stud like Bedard fully gains all that confidence in himself, he's going to go out there and he's going to start absolutely killing it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. I feel like Bedard, especially with the celebration I was talking about earlier, but he's got some swagger at this age.
That's what you need to build off of as a young player. Those good moments, you keep the good times rolling. That saying and stuff. So Bedard needs to go out there, keep firing at the net and stuff, and setting up guys. He's a playmaker. He's a sniper. He's all around.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll say about the Hawks is that in the 2 games that I watched. And just in general, I feel like their power plays have been better. I feel like they've been more efficient with killing the power plays on defense. I also feel like they're taking advantage of their opportunities to score when they're when the other team's shorthanded. So overall, I'm looking forward to kind of talking more about the Hawks, learning more about them, and getting a little bit more invested. like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I plan on going to see a game soon. So with you and Panky against the Capitals, that'd be a great fucking time. And we should go to more games than that. Joe, Andrew, we should catch some games.
I'm down.
Yeah, that would be
sure.
be a good time.
But that's all I have on the Hawks. And the only other thing I wanted to touch on was that I'm not going to talk about the Sox long at all. But Liam Hendricks, we didn't buy. We didn't.
So I'm covering all.
You're covering all that.
I
All
got
right,
it.
I'll let Andrew do it.
I got all that.
All right, buddy, take care of
Can we
it.
grab a beer before we start, or get started?
For sure.
You guys want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'm good, Joe.
All right.
All right. First and foremost, congratulations to the Texas Rangers on their very first title in history of the franchise. This leads the MLB with 5 teams without a ring. The Milwaukee Brewers, let's keep it that way. The Seattle Mariners, the San Diego Padres, the Colorado Rockies, and the Tampa Bay Rays. So there are only 5 teams remaining now without a ring. The Brewers being one of them. Like I said, let's make sure to keep it that way because I never want to see them win. This World Series that we watched, and before I say this, I want to get your opinion. How did you feel about this World Series? Did you think it was a good World Series? Did you think it was a fun watch? It was kind of,
I think you're setting me up for my answer, but yes, I'm gonna give you what you're looking for. I don't think it was the most exciting.
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, I don't think the World Series did itself any favors by ending in 5 games. I think the best World Series that we've witnessed in history have gone 6 or 7. So, I don't know. I just feel like the Diamondbacks came out flat in this series, and I think ultimately that's what made it kind of a boring series.
I think, well, I'm just going to jump into it. This World Series was the lowest watched and rated World Series in history of our game. Only a whopping total of 8.5 million viewers watched this World Series in total. Just to put this into perspective, this is the creme de la crop of baseball in our sport, the World Series. The Detroit Lions and the Las Vegas Raiders game last Monday had 15.2 million viewers in one game.
I was just going to say, Andrew, do you think some of that could be because they're scheduling literally the World Series games when you're having not only you're having basketball, hockey, and football going on at the same time?
So that's a very good point, but I'm going to argue and drop something real quick. So with that being said, the Lions and the Raiders had 15.2 million viewers in one game, obviously, on last Monday. Let's go back 7 years ago, right? The Cubs and Indians in the World Series. The Cubs and Indians had 22.8 million viewers. There's a massive difference between the two. Why do you think the issue is? Are there not enough stars in the game? Can small markets compete with big market teams? I'm not sure. I just truly think that these two teams that were in the World Series, I don't know. I just think it was a really poor, pathetic World Series. Like how Brandon said, it ended in 5 games. You never want to see a World Series end in 5 games because that means it's not competitive. But there's a massive difference between World Series in the past and, moving forward today.
I just want to say one thing. I feel like I understand your point, and I just went on record saying this wasn't the most exciting World Series, but going into the offseason and going into next season, I do feel pretty fucking refreshed that it wasn't the Red Sox, that it wasn't the Yankees, that it wasn't that it wasn't Houston, right? We saw Texas. We saw Texas, and we saw a new Arizona, a young Arizona team that snuck in through the wild card. Say what you want about viewership and the experience and in general, but I really appreciate how this season went.
And there was one good game in this entire series, and that was Game 1. Every other game was a blowout. So that's, I think, also had a big thing to deal with it.
Again, I think it comes down to that Arizona came up soft.
For sure. But moving on, cool fact here, Will Smith, the left-handed relief pitcher for the Texas Rangers, is the first player in Major League Baseball history to win 3 World Series in 3 consecutive years with 3 different teams. That is insane. So he won in 21 with the Atlanta Braves, 22 with the Houston Astros, and then 23 with the Texas Rangers.
really liked that movie, I Robot with him.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Just kidding.
No,
Sorry.
but no, seriously though. But that's I thought I'd share that with you guys. If you guys didn't know that, it's pretty cool. And
Hats off to him.
It's crazy that
Great accomplishment.
Will Smith. That happened to Will Smith, but then there's guys like Ken Griffey Jr. who's never even.
So
sniffed
you
a
wonder,
World Series,
so you wonder
Yeah.
how it makes you wonder, right? Is Will Smith that guy? Like, is he a good impact on the clubhouses?
It's just luck.
It's luck,
Yeah,
right?
because Will Smith is not.
It's luck.
He had like a 4.4.
Right,
like,
it's luck.
You know, an earned run average this year, so it's not like he's blowing away hitters. It's just luck. He's serviceable to stay on a postseason roster, so you got to tip your cap to him. But it is luck.
I drafted Will Smith in fantasy.
And
this
actually,
year.
maybe there is some sort of strategy behind it, because he went from the Braves, who are a very good team, to the Stros, who are a very good team, to the Texas Rangers, who are supposed to be good. So maybe him and his agent are kind of like jumping from team to team to do that. But
So the Cubbies got to sign him then.
honestly, I was going to bring that up later.
Cubbies got to
you
sign
happy
him.
with that?
And the Cubs need a left-handed bullpen arm, so I think there's a perfect fit with the Cubs. But moving on, Bruce Bochy wins his 4th World Series as a manager, tying for 4th on the all-time list with Joe Torre and Walter Alston. So congratulations. Obviously, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer one day. Also, Dusty Baker is retiring. He's had no doubt about it, Hall of Fame career. I think he's had like a 54-year baseball career. So we wish you the best in retirement. Definitely. Nelson Cruz, the famous boomstick, has finally hung it up. 464 home runs, 2,053 career base hits. Is that enough for the Hall? I'm just going to go ahead and answer for you guys. Probably not, considering he got caught for PEDs. Nonetheless, it was still a very impressive career, and I think when we think back at Nelson Cruz, we're just going to think of that boomstick and how he hits massive Mondo home runs.
Take out the
Yeah.
PEDs.
Take out the PEDs for sure. Well,
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking maybe not.
Actually, I'm going to retract that, because I think the PEDs allowed him to stay healthy and in good shape throughout his career.
No, but just by numbers alone. 464 and 2,000 careers. That's enough for you.
I think he could squeak in, not first
How many
year.
World Series rings does Cruz have?
0.
I don't think he makes it into the Hall.
I think.
I'll tell you right now.
I
Sorry.
think maybe there's a possibility he could squeak in on one of his last years on the ballot.
I think he gets some votes. I don't
Yeah,
think he gets.
but he'll probably be hovering around the 50%.
You know what? You know what Nelson Cruz's numbers kind of remind me of? This is me always tying things back to the Sox, but they kind of remind me of like Konerko's numbers.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
Konerko
I see it.
didn't hit 464 homers. He was more like lower echelon of 400, but he just reminds me of like a Konerko guy. Konerko didn't even get to year 2, so I
Fair
don't think
enough.
Nelson
So,
Cruz makes it.
regardless, it was still a good career.
You know what
And,
boomstick reminds me of?
Yeah, the Army of Darkness.
Yes!
Let's go, baby!
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm glad you got that reference.
Yeah.
This is my
Absolutely.
boomstick!
Absolutely.
You guys just
barrel
had a
shot.
bro moment with
Yeah,
that.
we did. And we saw him live last year.
That was
at
great.
his show.
By the way,
We
Bruce
had a-
Campbell.
Yeah, Bruce
Shout out to
Campbell.
Bruce Campbell.
Shout out to Bruce Campbell. It was an awesome show. We actually,
Unbelievable.
there's a lot of,
Hey, Bruce!
yeah. I may have had a couple beers in there. It was making
Andrew
some
kept
noise,
yelling
but-
out, "Hey, Bruce!"
And there were some people that were pissed off at us.
in front,
doing it.
there
Yeah, it
was this
kinda
girl.
funny,
The girl
yeah.
kept looking back, giving Andrew the stink eye, and the girl next to us was like laughing. It was cool. It was cool.
It was, and then we watched Evil Dead
2.
right at Evil Dead 2 right after the
Because
show.
Joe, who
Great
was?
movie.
I know you're a big fan. How did you get into that guy? Tell us a little bit about him.
That's a great question. So, Evil Dead is an 80s horror movie. I believe it came out in actual 1980. Then the Evil Dead 2 was the sequel. They say sequel
It's
slash
actually
remake.
it was a very good movie for that
It
time
is
frame.
for that time. Good special effects. If you go look at the history, Stephen King was actually the guy that kind of boosted. They did a quote from Stephen King, and they posted a quote from Stephen King everywhere. Good advertising technique that they did.
Well, of course.
They
Yeah,
threw the
Stephen
name
King's
out
got
there.
it on.
And then Army of Darkness, obviously, was the third one. Then they had Evil Dead Rise, which was a TV show, I believe, on HBO. that unfortunately had 3 seasons. It was a great show. Got canceled, I think, for 4 seasons, unfortunately.
So he was like a famous horror director from the 80s.
No, Bruce Campbell was the actor. It was Sam Raimi, the guy that directed the original Spider-Man movies from 2000. Sam Raimi is a famous director.
So he's got a resume.
That was his first movie I believe his first movie that he ever directed. Then Bruce Campbell was his college friend. I think they were college students, and they actually filmed the movie in their college. And some in their college, then they went to Tennessee to film like in a cabin somewhere. But it is a great, it is the first. Well, the original one's like straight up horror, but the second one is comedy horror. It was like one of the first original comedy horror movies that actually blended well with each other, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
No, for sure. And if you guys haven't seen it, I implore you to go out there and watch it.
But how I got into it was my brother obviously was a huge fan. My brother told me about it, got me into it. It was like a high school kid movie, and he got me into it, and the rest is history. I've been a fan ever since. So.
Very true. Thank you for that, Joe.
Yep.
Moving on to the Cubs and White Sox. Starting off with the Cubs, we have some major news moving forward here. It's going to knock your socks off, so put the seatbelt on and stay strapped in. Now's a good time to grab yourself a beer and have a nice celebratory drink with us.
Let's go.
Strap it down, like Hawk always
Strap it down, for sure. Craig Counsell will become the highest paid manager in the league, earning $40 million over the next 5 years. That equates to $8 million per year. The Brewers made him an offer to stay in Milwaukee, but it only topped out at 5.5, so the Cubs were more serious about it. But nonetheless, Craig Counsell, the game's top manager in the league, arguably the top manager in the league, at least top 3, is headed to Chicago, which does mean that David Ross is out of the helm. He will not be the manager anymore. I'm not sure what they're going to do with him, if they're going to let him go on his way, or they're going to bump him up to some sort of front office view. But nonetheless, insane news. That morning there was a report that said Craig Counsell will be signing with the team, with the manager, and that it automatically knocks out teams like the Guardians, the Padres, the Mets, and stuff like that. So I was thinking to myself, who could Craig Counsell be going? Where would he be going? Without a shadow of doubt, there's no way Craig Counsell would leave the Brewers, right, to go to the Cubs, their arch rival, their arch nemesis. But he did, and us Cubs fans are very excited, and we're very happy that's happened. With that being said, here's a statement from Jed Hoyer, our president of baseball operations. Quotations. Today we made the difficult decision to dismiss David Ross as our major league manager. On behalf of the Cubs organization, we express our deep gratitude for David's contributions to our club, both on and off the field. He did leave an impact. He was a beloved Cubs player. We named, he went by Grandpa Ross. So, first as a player, then as a manager. David showcased his ability to lead. David's legacy will be felt in Chicago for generations, and his impact to our organization will stack up with the legends that came before him. I think that was a very nice way to send off David Ross. Obviously, it was very abruptly. I'm sure, he wasn't a big fan of him being replaced. But I think I could safely say, and others would agree with me, I think it was time the Cubs moved on from David Ross. I think this year really showcased that with some of his iffy decisions on the pitching staff and, keeping Drew Smyly in the rotation as long as he did, and Michael Fulmer blowing, 12 games the first month of the season and continuing to throw him out there. I think he struggled with managing the bullpen and stuff like that. So I am happy David Ross has been let go, because obviously we got a guy like Counsell. But with that being said, David Ross is a Chicago icon for what he's accomplished here, and we wish you nothing but the best. And there's no bad blood, obviously, even though I have talked a lot of shit.
I was gonna say, Andrew, it seems like a lot. It's kind of maybe split down the middle. My dad told me today that he did some work for a guy, huge Cubs fan, probably just as big as you. He says in his basement, he has a replica of his basement set up like Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
And everything. And he said that he was very upset with this decision. Why is it that some Cubs fans are upset with this decision? And then there's some Cubs fans that are like you that are happy with this decision.
I think if I can answer that, Andrew, you can obviously have your own opinion, but I think that from having the perspective of somebody who admittedly is not a huge Cubs fan, right? I'm a Sox fan. I feel like David Ross didn't get the job done this year, and I think for me that was enough.
Exactly.
I think the collapse at the end of the year, we saw what happened with Sia Suzuki and everything, but the Cubs should have made the playoffs, let's be honest, and they didn't, and I think that someone has to be held accountable for that. And I think one more thing, Andrew. I know you were just quoting Jed Hoyer. I have something I want to quote from Jed Hoyer.
For sure.
I give the Cubs organization props. Like as a Sox fan again, which I'll always state, like I think this is a great signing for you guys.
It gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
I think
That's how excited I am.
I think I never saw it coming. I mean, I don't think
I
many
sure
people
as hell
did.
didn't either.
But I know Jed Hoyer did go on record saying that the firing of David Ross was, and I quote, a very hard decision, but he called it the best move for the fan base. So he is thinking about the fans, and I think, I'd be excited too if I was a Cubs fan. So I'm buying what he's selling here. He even went on and elaborated, and he said, it just felt like an exceptionally hard decision, but one that I felt like I had to make if the opportunity was there. My job is to figure out how to win as many games as we can in the short term and the long term. And there was nothing about this move that I felt like didn't meet that criteria. And again, the only other thing that I'll comment is this is a lethal signing. I mean, you're taking a guy like the Brewers could also be good next year, but now you have the Brewers mastermind in your back pocket, so he can exploit their strengths and their weaknesses to their arch rival, the Chicago Cubs. So not only was this a great signing because Craig Counsell was just a good manager, but it's a good signing because you're infiltrating the team that has been kicking your ass the last fucking 5 years.
Damn right.
So overall, I think it was absolutely
it was an earth-shattering move.
Diabolical signing by Jed Hoyer.
Absolutely, and for sure, I just want to say one more thing that Jed Hoyer said. He said it's more about Craig Counsell being available than it was about David Ross. So meaning, so let's go back 7 years or so, back in 2015 or 8 years ago, when the Cubs had Rick Renteria signed to a 4-year extension. They just signed him to a 4-year extension, but look who was available that offseason. Joe Madden was available. So Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein at the time, they both made the decision that Rick Renteria is not bad, but obviously Joe Madden's better for the team. And it's a business. Like there's not really loyalty in baseball. It's as simple as that. If someone's going to do a job better than you, then you're going to get replaced. Yeah. And quite frankly, I truly believe that if Craig Counsell was managing the Cubs this year, the Cubs would have won probably 90 games. And probably would have won in that division, but you don't know. But
the Diamondbacks.
So Andrew, what to Joe's point? Because I do want to hear. I want to hear this answer. So to Joe's point, I think Joe asked a really good question. What argument can you make, if any, as a Cubs fan?
Well, I think he did say it.
To Ross being a bad.
That iconic.
Well, okay. I mean, obviously, I just want to say it again and again and again. David Ross was beloved by many Cubs fans, and it was hard to see him move on for a lot of people because he is that fan favorite. He was Grandpa Ross. But at the end of the day, put your feelings aside and just understand that Craig Counsell's the better guy. In 5 out of 6 years with Milwaukee, a small market team that didn't have really that much talent other than who they drafted, he accomplished making the postseason 5 out of 6 years with 3 division titles and 5 playoff berths in a small market team. David Ross in 2020, he did win the Central. He has 1 division title under his helm, but that wasn't a shortened season, and we did have guys like Rizzo and Bryant and all those guys still there. So,
I think it's kind of like that Lovey Smith.
Yeah.
Lovey Smith is loved in Chicago, and they fired him, but seemed like it kind of was necessary,
Yeah, but I mean, but overall, Craig Counsell's he's better. He's just for sure. It was a great choice.
And you gotta imagine and you gotta imagine, right? I think these Cubs players, they can probably identify, and they obviously really appreciated David Ross. I'm sure he was probably a fun manager to have and a clubhouse guy. But as a player, you got to be looking at this signing by Jed Hoyer like, man, this guy's cutthroat. He wants
that just it sends a message to not only the clubhouse but to the fans that hey, the Cubs are very serious about winning, and not a lot of teams I feel as if act like that.
But do you think the players are going to be offended by this move? Like they
No,
do some,
no, absolutely.
like
I think
growing-
they
absolutely not. You know, and like I said, David Ross was loved. The players love them, but at the end of the day, these players want to win. And Jed Hoyer is putting these players in the best predicament to win a World Series, 100%.
Now, Andrew, my last question pertaining to David Ross specifically is, what does the future hold for him? Does he find another head coaching opportunity somewhere else? Or because the reason I'm asking is because I don't necessarily think David Ross would be happy or comfortable with it, but imagine having Craig Counsell as your manager and then having David Ross step down to a bench coach or something of that nature. Still part of the team, kind of like a glorified cheerleader, but that's what they would want from David Ross,
I
right?
don't think David Ross would accept the bench role.
Right.
If what I see happening is 50-50. Maybe David Ross would accept a job in the front office, you know, because he would be good for that role. Or I actually have David Ross being slated to be the manager of the San Diego Padres.
Oh shit.
I think David Ross will end up going to San Diego and being the manager there. And, you know, that team does have some talent, so hopefully he could get them, you know, into the playoffs, and we wish nothing but the best. But, yeah, that's the two outcomes that I personally
Do you remember
see.
Mark Trestman?
Yeah, I do.
You know when they got rid of Lovie Smith and they got Mark Trestman, the team had no respect for that guy. So hopefully, I don't think you said, Andrew, they will have respect for this guy coming in.
Oh,
Hopefully it's not something like that.
No,
because that would suck.
the
The
Well, the
culture
same
was
thing happened with
awful
the Sox.
Mark
Yeah.
Trestman.
When the White Sox got, especially with, you know, all the Latin American players we had, the Cubans, the Dominicans, like, they built such a great rapport with Rick Renteria, and it was really hard for these young players to respect a guy like Tony La Russa.
Right.
So we saw it with the Sox too.
Yeah.
But
That's something that happens, you know?
it happens, and like
Yeah.
Andrew said, ultimately it's a business, and these players need to look in the mirror and say,
Yeah.
you know what? If our team is doing what they believe is best for our organization, these players need to buy into what the front office is doing. Because if these players aren't buying into what their front office is doing, it's a recipe for disaster
I
right
think
then
the-
and there.
The
So
Cubs have good culture, it sounds like, you know,
Yeah.
what they do.
For sure. And Craig Counsell throughout the years has with the Milwaukee Brewers has had 707 win and 625 win-loss record, mounting at a .531 winning percentage. David Ross, I believe, won 264 and like 287 or something like that, to like around a 480. So he just simply did not get the job done. I think, you know, quite frankly, I'm not going to laugh about this, but I think seriously, Seiya Suzuki dropping that ball ultimately ended David Ross's career in Chicago. I think that was also a big factor in it. You know, that the Cubs did not make the playoffs this year, that we had to search elsewhere.
You said that like him dropping the ball, that was like a 2% chance of that happening, right? It was
Probably
like
less. I
ridiculous.
mean, it's just a routine play that, you know, players
A fly
don't
ball
make.
that
Yeah.
should be caught.
But moving on from Craig Counsell and David Ross, the White Sox will decline their $14 million club option on Tim Anderson, according to ESPN Rogers. I'm still kind of shocked at this. I'm not really that shocked because $14 million is a lot of money for a guy like Tim Anderson who only had one home run and 500 plus at bats last year, arguably being the worst defensive shortstop in the game. But if you look at what Tim Anderson has accomplished throughout his career with the Chicago White Sox, I thought it'd be a more difficult decision on that, because I actually have Tim Anderson being a bounce back player next year. I think next year Tim Anderson will go back to what he normally does, not to the extent of hitting .330, winning AL batting titles, but I think he still provides some value for a team. So I think, especially with a team like the White Sox, you know, it would have been also a good decision on maybe re-signing him, because if he does bounce back, then you trade him at the deadline for some talent. But they decided to cut ties with Tim Anderson. And as a White Sox fan, Brandon, as a diehard White Sox fan, how do you feel about Tim Anderson no longer being in Chicago? Because right over there, you do have that sweet bobblehead of Tim Anderson in that walk-off home run.
yes.
You know,
Well,
at the Field of Dreams, that's definitely a better movie.
Tim
than,
Anderson has
Sandlot.
won a couple batting titles.
Yeah.
He was in the thick of it. He was our leader. You know, people want to say Abreu was But in reality, I think Tim Anderson.
But Tim Anderson
really
was like the heart and soul of
He
the team,
was.
for
He
sure.
was. He had the energy, the passion for this team. He exuded what you look for in a South Side player. But I think it goes back to what you said. This doesn't surprise me. I think it goes back to there's really not a lot of loyalty in baseball. I think let me ask you a question, Andrew. Regardless of what happened, did Tim Anderson play like a guy that is worth $14 million next year?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
So I think
not.
it was that simple, right? I think it was as simple as, did Tim Anderson play last season like a guy that's worth re-signing for $14 million or extending? He wasn't. So the easy decision is to let him walk. It sucks because, Tim Anderson was on such a team-friendly contract for so many years when he was at his absolute peak, and now, he didn't play that well this year leading up to his option year. And the sad part is that, Tim Anderson was completely undervalued for all the years that he was so good, and now that now he had one bad year and he's going to go back to not making a lot of money. Let's be honest. He signed somewhere. He's not going to make anywhere near 14, I don't think.
Probably not.
Tim Anderson, what Tim Anderson is going to do, and I'm not going to speculate on what team yet, but what Tim Anderson's going to do, he's going to sign a 1-year contract. He's going to sign a 1-year prove-it deal, so that next year with whatever team he signs with, he has to lace up the boots, get to work, prove himself that he's still an elite player, and then from there maybe he can sign a more hefty 2 to 3 year contract.
Yeah, I could totally see Tim Anderson going to like a Detroit or and freaking Guardians type of team. That'd be pretty funny.
I could also see him going to an elite team that needs a shortstop. I mean,
I'm
looking
not sure about elite.
Looking back at this season, the shortstop group was pretty.
He would have
awful.
to move to second base because his defensive numbers last year proved that maybe he's getting older and he's not a serviceable shortstop.
And that's always been his issue.
I think if Tim Anderson wants to be on a good team, I think he needs to be willing to move to second base, which I believe he said that wouldn't have been an issue this year. I believe he did go out and say that, so that's good that he was and open to that thought. Do you think, and I don't want to beat the dead horse too much and talk about Tim Anderson all that much, but do you think he was partially discouraged this season for how bad the White Sox did? Do you think that affects a player like Tim Anderson, who's a true competitor, who wants to win?
You know the answer to this, Andrew. I think, and Joe, you guys know the answer. Of course, I think if you're playing on a bad team, especially in baseball, even more than football and other sports, like winning and losing in sports, in baseball specifically, is super contagious. Yeah, and I think that when you're Tim Anderson and you're playing with a team like the Sox, who damn near everybody's underperforming or everyone's injured, your head's gonna be out of the game too. And I think that happened to Tim Anderson. That's why you give him a 1-year prove-it deal. I think Tim Anderson can prove his value, and I think he'll have, moving forward for the next couple years, he'll have a successful MLB career moving forward without the White Sox. But to answer your question, I think that greatly impacted the way Tim Anderson performed. Sure. I think you could see that he was frustrated. Yeah. Tim Anderson, you saw the fight with Jose Ramirez, and
down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
I know.
You guys got to look up that video if you haven't seen it.
The best call, hilarious.
It was out of straight up sign him to MMA, like replace Joe Rogan type level of how good it was.
Yeah, and I think that only happens because of the year we had. I don't think Tim Anderson gets in that fight like that.
Yeah. I also think and Jose Ramirez completely started that.
I think so too. I don't think Anderson did anything too outrageous.
But very good stuff on Tim Anderson. I think the White Sox moving forward, they obviously have the stud prospect in their system. He goes by Colson Montgomery. I actually covered a big segment on Colson Montgomery previously in the podcast, maybe in the 3rd episode or so. He's going to be an absolute unit for many years to come, and I could easily say that. So maybe that also kind of helped their decision. And I also think the White Sox are going to ultimately end up signing with Merrifield and bringing up Montgomery this year. So you're going to see a duo with Merrifield and Montgomery on the south side, which actually should be not that bad of a combo.
I agree, but I don't think that played a factor at all in deciding if they were going to extend Anderson or not, because Colson Montgomery, the White Sox have acknowledged the mistakes that they've already made. They made a mistake by rushing Oscar Colas as our starting right fielder last year. He had an abysmal season. It just felt like he was rushed being called up to the big leagues. I can tell you right now, I have my sources. The White Sox are not going to be starting Colson Montgomery opening day.
Well, no, they won't be. But he
Colson
will be
Montgomery
up this season or next season.
in September.
That's fine.
In September. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to call up a guy like Colson Montgomery to be our shortstop in September, you logistically it would have made sense to still retain Anderson. I think it was just simply put that the White Sox wanted a fresh face. They didn't want to pay him, and that's all there is to it. It was just the money. It was too much money. Anderson was asking for too much money for how he performed in 2023.
Yeah, very true. But moving on from Tim Anderson, the White Sox are declining their club option on right-hander Liam Hendriks, according to the New York Post. That's not surprising to me. You know, Liam Hendriks dealt with all sorts of issues this year, one being cancer, which we're very happy, you know, you stuck that out and beat that out. Obviously, any normal person would be happy about that. But he also had a bunch of injuries throughout the season, so that makes sense. So we'll see where Liam Hendriks ends up. The White Sox did sign Grady Sizemore to a coaching job. They didn't clarify which department it's going to be in, but Grady Sizemore is on the Chicago White Sox coaching staff. If you don't know who Grady Sizemore is, he played for the Indians back in the mid-2000s. And when I mean this dude was an absolute stud for 4 years or so, he was.
He was a unit, too.
MVP, you know, votes year in, year out for them. So, you know, I'm sure he's going to provide some value and some knowledge and to a young White Sox team that's developing.
And no, good point, Andrew.
Yeah.
Grady Sizemore, I do like that. I think he very experienced player. I think he's going to get this opportunity, and I'm glad it's happening with us. What do we have to lose at this point with the Sox?
And
I just wanted to comment on the Liam Hendriks before we get too far from
Yeah.
it. So again, we did not exercise Liam Hendriks' option of $15 million. However, stated in the clause of not exercising his option, there is a clause in there that we still owe Liam Hendriks the $15 million, but because we exercised, and you knew this, right? Because we exercised to not, you know, keep Liam Hendriks with us, we do still owe him the $15 million. However, we're just going to be paying him $1.5 million over the next 10 years, as opposed to just paying him the $15 million this year.
another Bobby Bonilla.
Another Bobby Bonilla. So
Bobby Bonilla Day. I think it's July 1st. Mark your calendars.
Yeah, so, I mean, Liam Hendriks is still going to be on the books with the White Sox for the next 10 years, but I do agree with what the Sox did. You know, you can eat $1.5 million a year as opposed to just $15 million. That way, you know, we free up some space. Hopefully we make some more moves this year.
You know, going back to Grady Sizemore real quick, I also think it was a good signing because Grady Sizemore throughout his career has been very injury. He's had a lot of adversity, and I think, you know, a player like that mindset could help out a young team like the White Sox who do deal with a lot of injuries throughout their career. So I think he could provide a lot of value there. They also signed another coach from the Angels, Thames. I forgot his first name. But he is also with the White Sox now on the coaching staff. So it's good that they're bringing in new, fresh ideas. That's what a rebuilding team needs, really. So the White Sox are making some moves, so we'll see how that all ends up panning out for them.
Don't quote me on this. I believe well, you know what? I'm not going to speculate because I'm not 100% sure. I know I saw it. All I'll say is this Thames guy, he was the hitting coach for the Los Angeles Angels. So that's who's coming in.
And they, you know, throughout the years, I mean, the Angels have had some pretty good bats. So maybe it is Thames, maybe it's not, but who knows. Going back to the Cubs real quick, John Heyman reports that Marcus Stroman is opting out of his deal. Stroman originally signed a 3-year, $71 million deal with the Cubs from 2021 to 2022 offseason. He was going into his final year of the contract, but he left $21 million on the table. The Cubs will be without Marcus Stroman, which I'm very happy about. You know, that signing didn't really make much sense to me to begin with, and I think we could allocate the $20 million to, you know, far better talent because he is getting up there in age. He is turning 33 this year. Obviously, and moving on, obviously everyone knows that Cody Bellinger was not going to re-sign with the Cubs with that mutual option. So he receives a $5 million buyout and is now a free agent. Scott Boras is his agent, and he went on paper and said Cody Bellinger is looking for a contract that's 12 years and up with a figure of like $250 million. The Cubs are not stupid. They're not a dumb organization. They will never sign a guy like Cody Bellinger to that deal. I find it hard to believe that many teams will, considering he had one good year out of 4 years, and his advanced metrics show that Cody Bellinger probably shouldn't have had, the season he did. So we'll see where he ends up.
Maybe the Bears will sign him.
Yeah, you could probably help him out. But Cody Bellinger will not be with the Cubs. The Cubs also declined their mutual option on reliever Brad Boxberger, who we got from Milwaukee last season. It was a $5 million mutual option. Thank God we opted out of that. He collects an $800,000 buyout. Good riddance. He spent his entire time in the IL anyways. Some big news actually. The Cubs have exercised their club option on Kyle Hendricks, who had a very good season for us.
Only 2016.
Yeah, he's the only guy in 2016 left. He provides solid depth for the Cubs, and he obviously proves that he can still pitch. I don't know if he's going to be like a mainstay in the rotation, maybe like a spot start, to fill in for like injury-prone guys, but we'll see how they utilize him. And another very important thing that the Cubs did is they picked up their club option on Yan Gomes. Yan Gomes is up there in age. He's like 36 years old, but he proves year in and year out he's one of the game's top catchers in the league. Not only can he swing the bat, he's one of the best pitch framers and defensive backs in all of baseball. So that's very important. He's definitely a World Series caliber talent that you want to have on the team and veteran leadership. So kudos to the Cubs for holding on to him. So without Marcus Stroman in the Cubs rotation, obviously I believe that they're going to go ahead and go out and get another pitcher. I'm not sure who it's going to be, if they're going to re-sign or if they're going to go after a guy like Nola or Blake Snell, who's going to go for a lot of years and a lot of money. But as of right now, I see the rotation as Justin Steele, Jameson Taillon, Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad, or Hayden Wiesenski, which I think Hayden Wiesenski is more of a long relief, bullpen arm. Cade Horton will be up at some point this year, and he will have a slot in the rotation. He's supposed to be really good. Or Kyle Hendricks being a fifth. So, not that rotation doesn't blow me away, but I think it's solid enough if you have a good offense to go with it, which the Cubs do. But yeah.
Yep. So no, I just had a couple, just to kind of close this out, Andrew. I had a couple comments. First and foremost, my light bulb went off. But when you said that they exercised, when they took on Kyle Hendricks' option for $16.5 million, he will be a starter in that rotation. Whether he's the number 5 guy or what, he will start the season as a full-time starter. You're not re-signing it. You're not exercising his option for $16.5 million and not having him as an everyday starter to start the season.
You're 100% right, but I want to clarify, I didn't go full detail on that. Kyle Hendricks is getting old, and he only pitched around like 120 innings last year. So what I mean, he's gonna be in the rotation for sure, but he's not gonna be like, he's
just gonna have a short leash.
Start. A short leash, and he's not gonna go that many. He's not gonna eat up a lot of innings. And like I said, like Kyle Hendricks is the perfect guy to have, like a guy like Taillon goes down or something like that, or Wicks goes down or doesn't end up panning out. So. And
I just wanted to make one last comment on the White Sox to round us out. I think that the White Sox overall, I think they have a lot that they need to work on in general. I think they have a lot to consider in terms of free agents and signings and things of that nature. All I'm going to say is this: 4 guys come to mind. 4 guys need to 4 guys need to come to mind. 4 guys need to leave the Chicago White Sox team, and then we need to, I guess you can consider it rebuild all over again. Yasmani Grandal, Elvis Andrus, Yohan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez. All 4 of those players should not be returning with the 2024 Chicago White Sox. And if they don't, the White Sox will be in a better place. In terms of what free agents that we might sign or who we're considering, stay tuned for the next couple podcasts. That's going to be evaluated.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with Chicago baseball. So please stay with us and keep getting all that good knowledge that we're providing you guys. But that concludes my baseball segment for the podcast. I don't have anything else regarding football or baseball, and you already covered the Hawks. So I would imagine now we're going to go to our beer review.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the Bulls won yesterday.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Bulls.
But
Yeah.
there's really not much to say. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people are saying that the Bulls are just they have all that talent on the team. I mean, they have like a lot of money being paid to like mediocre talent, and this is kind of just like a wash year for the Bulls. So hopefully next year we'll see. But I know it's still early, but yeah, it's not looking good. Yeah, onto the beer.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I just want to say one last thing about the Cubs, actually. I lied. I'm sorry. Our ex-beloved catcher, Wilson Contreras, as everyone knows, is a huge snake, and no one should appreciate that guy in Chicago. And this just goes to show how classless of a person he is, and I want to implore how much of a classless piece of garbage he is. After David Ross got fired, he went on Twitter and said it's about damn time he got fired. And after he said that, there was a bunch of reports that came out that David Ross and Wilson Contreras did not have a good relationship. But Wilson Contreras is just he was not a good teammate by any means. And you saw what he did. He goes to St. Louis and says, "Oh, this is the much better organization." And during that game, how he's being so belligerent and cocky and stuff. That was a huge waste of money for the Cardinals. The Cubs definitely dodged a bullet by not re-signing Wilson Contreras. So if any of you think the Cubs should have held on to him, don't think that, because he's not a friend to the friendly confines. Okay, done.
All right, so on to the beer. So Saturday, Grace, my fiance, and her family, we went to a brewing company over in Evanston, Illinois. Got a flight of beers, and as Brandon is showing, this is by Double Clutch Brewing Company. It is, so the name of the beer is a Helles Rock Beer Smoked Lager. So how they make the beer a little bit is, I do want to say that it did win a silver award in the American Beer Festival of 2023. So this is how they describe the beer on the website. The malt is dried over beechwood smoke, giving the beer its unique flavor. Balanced with the noble hops of Franconia, this beer is has a unique pleasure. Yeah, so if you guys like smoked flavored things, like I love anything smoked. This beer is smoked. The hops are smoked, which is very cool. It has a smoky flavor. If you like smoky things, you'll love it. If you don't like smoky things, you probably will not like this beer. I do want to shout out Scott Frank. He is the head brewer over there. I talked to him a little bit. He gave me one of his business cards. I told him we had a podcast. He was all excited about it. And I said, yeah, I'll be doing your beer. After the flight of beer I got, I thought this was the most unique one out of the flights. They have a bunch of good beer, by the way, over there at Double Clutch Brewing Company. The brewing company is like an old school car show. It feels like, so I don't know if it's like more geared towards like gearheads, but they have a bunch of cool old cars on display when you walk in. Really fancy, good food, good beer. It's a cool place to go. It's located in Evanston, Illinois. I guess it's right by Northwestern College over there. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Some big college over there. I think it's Northwestern. I could be wrong. But, yeah, I mean, if you like smoky flavored things, this is your beer. If you like smoked meat, whatever, you'll probably like this. If I had to grade this on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
That was a very good review. I have a couple things I want to say about this beer as well. And number one, I thought it was a very good beer. It was a very easy sipping, in my opinion. I also really loved the artwork on it. It was like very subtle, but like also kind of like it definitely packed a punch. And I want to reiterate what Joe said. Very unique taste. I literally, first sip I took, I felt as if I was drinking a fucking fire pit. And I don't, and that's not, and I don't want to say that in a bad way. It's just very smoky, but I personally loved it. I'm going with a solid 7.7 out of 10. Like, I would,
5.1%.
yeah, I would 100% be drinking this beer again.
Yeah. Andrew, kind of to elaborate on what you said, in terms of like the fire pit, I understand where you're coming from with the fire pit. I just want to elaborate it.
Yeah.
Like you know when you spend a whole evening around a campfire,
And you smell like
no, well,
yeah.
yeah. Like when you
exactly.
when you spend an entire afternoon or evening around a fire pit, and then you go home, take your jacket off, you wake up the next day, you throw your jacket on, and you kind of have like a little smoke essence to you. That's kind of like the smell, the taste that I got from this. And again, I'm not. It's weird because when I say that in the form of
yes,
beverage,
it sounds bad, but it's not.
It sounds like you're kind of dogging on it, right? But no, it wasn't bad though. It was just a smoky, like an after smoky taste to it and smell. And I also want to comment, like Andrew said and Joe alluded to as well, that the design is nice. It's like it's like a diner feel. It's like it's like a comforting like. You wake up on a Sunday morning and
a flag.
Yeah, like you wake up on a Sunday morning and you go to like a nice breakfast diner. Like that's kind of the artwork vibe that I'm getting. So all things considered, it was a lager, 5.1%. This is my cup of tea. I actually thought it was pretty delicious. I thought that your guys's
They have the gear shifters.
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah, it's pretty neat. I thought that your guys' ratings were very good. I would give it a 7. You know, it was good. I could see myself having this on a later date. I just think for me a 7.0 is where I'm at with it.
Which is still a very good score.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course.
So we all enjoyed it. We implore you guys to go check out his brewery. Joe already said it. I'm sure he will drop it in a link below to the website or something, just so you can support that.
Yeah, it's located.
That individual's business.
Yeah, it's
for
located
sure.
in Evanston,
Yeah.
Illinois, by North. I think I'm pretty sure it was Northwestern College. So yeah, it's a good beer.
Hopefully we get another one of his beers on here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely. He had
love
a good Heffenweizen that I tried too,
Cool.
that I
Yeah.
really liked. But I mean, I wanted to try something unique. I always like bringing, like, I want to be known kind of as like the guy that brings in the unique, interesting beers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm going for.
Well-
Andrew seems like he's the IPA guy, and then Brandon down there is like the stout man. So
Yeah, well, hey, let's recap real quick. Like the last 3 or 4 weeks, right? We've had peanut butter and jelly.
Which
we've
was delicious.
We've
I
had
really
s'mores.
loved that one.
We've had
S'mores,
s'mores.
yep.
We've had smoky.
Yeah.
some IPAs by Andrew.
You know, we've had some interesting
jalapeno
beers.
beer.
The
Which was the
jalapeno,
worst
yeah.
beer I've ever had in my entire life.
So far I brought in the jalapeno, the peanut butter and jelly, and
The campfire beer.
jalapeno, and the campfire. Oh yeah, and that one beer that was like $30. I forgot the name of it, but it was.
Oh, that one was dog shit.
Three
terrible.
Floyds.
Yeah,
by
I
Three
gave it a
Floyds.
0.
Yeah, that one was awful. Like it was
Yeah.
4 bottles for $28 plus tax.
Yeah.
Garbage.
So,
Don't
next-
waste your money on that. Yeah.
To that point, next week I'm going to be bringing in the beer, so be ready, boys. I'm going to keep it a
Alright.
secret.
Very excited. Now, I also, after you bring your beer, I have a very interesting beer that I want to go out and buy. And
All
try.
right.
All right.
Perfect.
So,
Then we're
excited.
set for the
Yeah.
next couple weeks, huh?
Yeah.
We are very set.
All right.
But thank you for staying with us, enjoying our podcast with us, and having a beer. You know, we always appreciate you guys. Make sure to leave any feedback that you want us to see, any questions that you want us to answer in the future. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. We would really appreciate it. And
Share the podcast to your friends.
Yeah, share the podcast. You know, thank you guys for everything. And yeah.
Peace out.